Am I the jerk for taking my child's computer away for making racist jokes online? For some background, I am a 29-year-old female and have 2 kids. Let's call them Carl, a 10-year-old male, and Gerald, a 6-year-old male, for the sake of this post. Gerald is at that age where everything is licorice and lollipops, but Carl has been having real behavior issues as of late. Carl likes to play League of Legends on his Windows PC, and he is actually quite good at it for his age. However, there's one key issue. He has serious anger issues when he loses. Whenever he loses a match, Carl will frequently slam his mouse into the wooden desk, kick the wall, or scream an obscenity. Ever since his father stopped living with us, he has felt dissatisfied with life and generally angry. He frequently goes to therapy for his anger issues, but he is in the process of recovery, so I try to be as patient as possible. At the very least, I have gotten him to calm down with the obscenities since it interrupts my work as a mid-level manager at a sports marketing firm. Recently, Carl went up to me and asked me to help him create a new account since he got banned for a month and does not know what happened. Initially, I assumed the best out of my son, as most parents do. I figured it was because of the third-party extensions he installs to keep track of things in the game. However, as I began to think about it, something just seemed off. How could a popular in-game extension get him banned for a month? I began to politely question him further to make sure he did not do something bad like cheating. In actuality, he did something much worse. After a couple of minutes of non-answers, he started throwing a fit about how sensitive people reported him online for making innocent jokes. He said that his jokes were a little bad, but usually consisted of just Asian jokes or calling black people monkeys. Of course, I was completely livid. I am usually patient with my son, but this was way too far. We are second-generation Italians and live in a diverse neighborhood with every major racial group, so I never expected this out of him. I instantly took away his PC. He has a Chromebook for school. I then gave him some age-appropriate books I selected from diverse authors. It has been a week, and he has 2 weeks of this punishment left. He has gotten extremely angry about the fact that he cannot play any good games on his Chromebook. I think he has learned his lesson about singling out individual groups, but I am not satisfied with the way he blames me for his punishment, instead of recognizing why I had to take away his computer for 3 weeks. I know he has underlying reasons for his anger, but I really want him to take some more time to reflect on his behavior. Did I go too far with this? League probably isn't a good game for a 10-year-old, considering it's widely known for its toxic online community. Monitoring his online activities is crucial because this behavior is often learned from these games. Your son needs other outlets for his energy, as highly competitive games like LoL are not healthy for him. Good on you for sticking to your guns on the punishment. Your actions don't make you a jerk. Would I be the asshole if I request not to tell the in-laws our baby has been born until we are ready for everyone to know? For some information, my partner and I have had issues with pregnancy and miscarriages. We never made family aware we were trying or having issues. We are currently pregnant, and although there are complications with me, the baby is healthy. We did want to wait to tell family. However, by 14 weeks it was becoming difficult to hide. This will be my in-laws' first grandchild. When we told them, they were over the moon, although they did ask if this was an accident, as we have never mentioned pregnancy unlike his sister. The next day, we informed his sister, who mostly put on a brave face, made a comment about how at least one of her parents' children could produce a child, and spent the rest of the evening discussing her issues with not being able to conceive. We did mention that we had previous complications and that this pregnancy was not going to be straightforward when the comment was made. With both sets of parents and siblings, we requested that they not tell anyone else as we are not ready for wider family to know until we have had further checks. We usually meet up as a family weekly. However, at the next meetup, his sister said she had plans. The parents-in-law explained she was struggling with our news because of her issues. So we explained to them we had previous and ongoing complications, which is why we did not want wider family to know about the baby yet. We did end up bumping into his sister as she had attended the same event we had as a family. She would not look at me or speak to me. Since then, we have not had a family meetup for the past 2 weeks, nor has any of them checked in to see how things are going. Thursday evening, we received a card in the post congratulating us on our pregnancy from my partner's aunt and uncle. We had not been informed they had been told, and the request was to not tell anyone at all. My partner has messaged to ask them, and it turns out his mother has told all her sisters, but it's okay, because she has explained we have had previous issues and have complications with this one. I did not want wider family knowing until we knew just how severe the complications are, and I certainly did not want them to know about our private issues. So now I want to ask that we don't tell them as soon as the baby is born, but wait until we are ready for wider family to know. I want us to have a few days to settle before being bombarded with messages from wider family or before anyone visits. It is likely the birth will be quite complicated, and I do not think we are being selfish to want a few days to adjust before all of that starts. But I fear his mother will tell wider family and not respect our request for no visits until we are ready. So would I be the bad person? You did nothing to be ashamed of. Your husband needs to have a serious talk with his parents about their inability to respect your wishes. They have lost all privileges to know anything about your baby because they can't keep their mouths shut. This is your pregnancy, and you owe no one any explanation for it. Since these people have a track record, you already know they won't be able to keep things private. Am I the jerk for not checking in on my sister during her first day of high school? My sister, who is 15 years old, and I, who am 16 years old, do not have a good relationship, and we fight frequently. I never want to hang out with her, and she never wants to hang out with me. This started when we were really young, and our parents used to force us on each other. Whenever we were home and doing our own thing, they would intervene and force us to play together, and they would legitimately stand over us to make sure we were doing something together. Putting us in a room was never enough. My mom told us that her favorite thing about having sisters was having 3 best friends at home and always having someone to hang out with. She only had the 2 of us and really tried to recreate what she had with her sisters through us. We were never interested in the same things and resented each other for being forced together so much. Dad was the same way, but he would also take us to the park and call us back if we played with other kids and not each other. He would direct us on what we could and couldn't do if we didn't automatically play together. This led to us fighting and screaming at each other. When we were younger and we shared a bedroom, we used to wake each other up and fight. It only made our parents force us together more, which made us dislike each other even more. Our grandparents would babysit us sometimes and they would get yelled at for separating us and letting us do our own thing, or for doing one-on-one activities with each of us. Grandpa would take me, and Grandma would take my sister, and then they would swap which granddaughter they had. Eventually, for that reason, my parents stopped letting them babysit us or have grandparent sleepovers. My parents did eventually stop forcing us together so much after my mom's sisters all said they would not have been as close if it had to be forced, and that my parents probably ruined the chance we did have at naturally growing closer. I was 11 when they finally stopped, and that was also when we got our own bedrooms. My sister has struggled at school for a long time, and she also has anxiety. She had to repeat a grade, and it made her hate school. She started high school last week and she was anxious. My parents were worried about her, so they dropped her off on the first day and picked her up. When she got home from her first day, my parents asked her how it was, and whether I checked on her during the day. She asked why on earth I would do that, why she would want me to do that, and how embarrassing it would be for me to talk to her. My parents confronted me and yelled at me for not being a better sister to her. So last week was terrible with them and they're still upset about it. My mom told me we're family and we act like we don't care about each other. I can't speak for my sister, but I don't care about her, and I believe that feeling is mutual. I didn't say that to my mom, obviously, but the message was still clear that she and Dad are disappointed in me for not checking on her that first day. Am I the antagonist? You have done nothing wrong. Your parents are delusional and intrusive for trying to force a best friend relationship upon you and your sister. They need a reality check and to be creative in attempting to modify your bond, or at the very least, stop antagonizing you both so that maybe, in time, when you are older, you might actually become closer. Rather than work constructively on the problem, they just scream at the problem and berate you for not turning out how they want. That's awful parenting. Am I the jerk for serving my roommate's girlfriend's leftovers at my dinner party without asking? Here is the revised text. Here's the situation. My roommate Dave has been dating this girl Lisa for a few months. Lisa is an amazing cook, and whenever she comes over, she prepares incredible meals. The thing is, she always makes way too much food, and they leave a ton of leftovers in the fridge. Now, Dave never eats the leftovers. Every few days, I have to go through the fridge and clean out all the old food Lisa leaves behind, because it just sits there until it starts to go bad. A few weeks ago, I decided to throw a small dinner party for some friends. I am not much of a cook, so I was getting stressed about what to serve. I thought, why not ask Lisa to help out? She is always cooking at our place anyway, and I have always complimented her food. So I casually mentioned it to Dave, asking if Lisa might be cool with cooking for my party. Dave seemed a bit taken aback, but said he would ask her. The next day, he told me Lisa was not comfortable with it because she did not want to feel like she was being taken advantage of. I was surprised but told him no problem, I would figure something else out. The night before the party, Lisa came over and started making dinner for her and Dave as usual. I was in the kitchen, hanging out with them, and mentioned that I was still trying to figure out what to serve at my party the next day. Lisa did not say much but continued cooking, and I noticed she was making a lot of food, way more than just for her and Dave. After they finished eating, they left the leftovers in the fridge. Given the history of these leftovers going uneaten and just taking up space until I have to clean them out, I got an idea. The next day, I took out the leftovers, heated them up, and served them at my dinner party, along with a bean dip I made. My friends loved the food and kept complimenting me on how great it was. I just smiled and thanked them without giving too many details. That night, Dave came home, ordered pizza, and went to bed without even checking the fridge. 2 days later, after Lisa had already come and cooked another dinner, he noticed the leftovers were gone and asked me what happened to them. I told him I used them for my party. He got very mad and said I had no right to take the food Lisa made. I argued that it was just leftovers, and since they never eat them, I figured it was better than letting them go to waste. Now, both Dave and Lisa are upset with me, saying it was a rude move to steal her cooking for my party. I think they are overreacting because it was just food that was going to end up in the trash otherwise. That was a pretty big favor to ask from someone you don't know that well, especially to cook a fancy meal for you and your friends. Thinking you could just request that from her when you're just her boyfriend's roommate is pretty wild. You need to think about boundaries and what's appropriate to ask of someone you really don't know that well. Also, they should definitely be more conscientious about their leftovers to avoid food going bad. Would I be the a-hole if I outed my spouse's affair? I, a 32-year-old woman, have been with my husband, a 33-year-old man, for 12 years. We have 3 children, and I am 32 weeks pregnant with our 4th child. About 3 weeks ago, my husband admitted to having formed an emotional relationship with his subordinate, a 32-year-old woman. He told me that he was going to pursue a relationship with her and see if something real could come out of it because he was unhappy with our marriage. I understood how he could be unhappy. For the last few years, he would go to work for long hours, come home, play on his phone, and pass out on the couch. I also worked full-time until 3 months ago when I got laid off. I did and still do all the domestic labor in the house, including trash and yard work, child rearing, and carrying the mental load of the family. I often talked to my husband previously about how I wanted us to talk more, how I felt like we were drifting apart, how I needed more help around the house, and my insecurities with his long working hours and working closely with his subordinate. He would tell me to look through his phone as he had nothing to hide. He would reassure me that everything was okay, and that we were just in a hard part of our marriage due to our kids being small and demanding. Most times when we had this conversation, it turned into a fight as I felt like I was not being heard. Then I would feel bad, because all I wanted to do was talk and connect with him because I missed him. He would tell me if this was all our fights were about, we were doing better than most people. Despite our unhappiness, I felt secure that we would continue to choose each other and this season would pass. We had a good sex life, and sex was always constant. It turns out, my husband held back on a lot of things in an effort to try to make me happy. He recently confessed that he was working late hours because he did not want to come home. He admitted to deleting text messages and forming this emotional relationship with his subordinate because I nagged him. She is supposedly easier to talk to, interesting with hobbies, and he sees the potential of having a true companion with her. It hurts to have him say these things to me, but I do understand and take ownership of the role I played. However, I told him that it is not fair for him to compare us because we are in entirely 2 different seasons. I am a wife and mother with responsibilities, while she is a single woman. According to my husband, she never thought she would have a relationship or kids and is super excited to pursue a relationship with him because she will get everything she ever wanted. Him plus 4 kids without having to experience the burden of motherhood. Talk to a lawyer ASAP and don't let H decide the terms of the divorce. He's proven that he will lie to you for his benefit and try to take advantage of you. Make sure to document everything, but don't take any action until consulting with a lawyer. Don't settle without an attorney. It's essential to protect your interests and take him to the cleaners. Am I the jerk for telling my half-siblings to seek professional help instead of my help? I, 28-year-old female, was raised by my father. He and my mother broke up when I was 6 weeks old, and she left me in his custody. I never saw her again. When I was 8 years old, my father was notified that my mother had 4 more children who were removed from her care. He was asked if he was willing to become a kinship placement for them. My father said no, and they went looking elsewhere. My father had told me about them then, but I did not meet them or have any interaction with them at that point. Last year, I was contacted through social media by my half-brother. He told me he and my 2 half-sisters were looking for me and wanted a relationship. We did a DNA test to confirm we were actually related, and we were. I was not totally on board with the idea, but from the direct messages I got, I realized this was a huge thing for them. So I agreed but made it clear that I had not been searching or planning to search for them and was not sure if I wanted the relationship like they did. They said they understood. We exchanged direct messages back and forth for several months and met twice in person at their strong request. They were clearly seeking out an older relative who would look after them. While I have my own family, a husband and child with another on the way currently, I was not willing to be that person for them. At a certain point, they started asking about my father and wanted me to put them in touch with him so they could talk. I asked my father how he felt about that, and he told me he had nothing to say to them. So I told them I was not comfortable sharing information like that. They said they needed answers and wanted to know why he was not willing to save them. This then turned into how they wanted me to help them because they did not know how to live good lives. They shared with me a lot about their time in foster care, and none of it was pleasant. Neither was their time with our mother and their assumed father. It turns out the man they believed was their father was not the father of 2 of them, and that only came to light after they were taken into foster care. It was shared with them at vulnerable ages, pre-teens. The longer contact between us continued, the more they confided in me and asked for my help. They wanted me to listen to them and be a bigger part of their life. They looked for me to be an adult figure and therapist to them. They are all in their 20s now, so I am not that much older, but I know I had the stability they lacked. In the end, it was all too much for me. I told them. They told me they needed me and asked if I did not want siblings. I suggested they seek professional help instead of mine because I lacked the tools and training to help them. They said I owed them more than that, given I knew they existed and never tried to save them. They said I was so cruel to dismiss their cries for help. Am I the antagonist? You haven't done anything wrong. You gave a very rational, level-headed answer and recognized that their needs are greater than you can fulfill. It's wild that they think your dad owes them anything and seem to be trying to shake you down. They are pretty much strangers claiming a lot of entitlements that aren't there. It seems like these people are always going to be looking for a handout. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.